And live, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, because how many women actually pay attention to college sports if it's not women's sports? We are here, your best crew behind March, the young gun, Dave, the best in the world, is joined by my buddy, the biggest Golden Domer Homer I will ever know, Windy.
What's going on, everyone? I'm sick of these SEC fans. I'm just going to say that. I'm sick of the SEC homerism.
The man currently below me, the most down the middle, unbiased to a degree Alabama fan you will ever know, Mr. Jackson Johnson. The man who is currently off screen and will hopefully come back to us soon. The bird with teeth, the best homer of the ACC, more of a Dallas Cowboy homer, Austin Williams, and the one, the only, the greatest ever to do this business. I'm greater than Michael Jordan. I'm greater than LeBron James. I'm greater than Wayne Gretzky, baby. I am even better than Tom Brady. The GOAT and God of our business, Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports. All right. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Doing really good, man.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
All right. So, even though I said we could wrap this part of the conversation up in about 5 minutes, there was a game, football game, played yesterday. So, let's get to it. Let's break this baby down, even though there's not much to break down.
More like a slaughterhouse.
The biggest thing I want to point out from this game, Stetson Bennett's not a GOAT. I'm sick of the social media already saying Stetson Bennett's the greatest of all ever do it.
I'll give him that. He's a winner. The guy knows how to win games, but do they do it because of him? Not all the time, but he does know how to win.
The biggest thing for me is a factor that, like, people either forget or just ignore the fact he's 25 years old. He should already be in, like, his third or fourth year of his rookie contract in the NFL. The problem is he was a walk-on at Georgia. He left Georgia, went to JUCO, and it's come to my attention recently from, I believe, our friend Edward, that when in JUCO, the eligibility does not go against you. So then he came back from JUCO to Georgia, and that's why he's here.
Troy V said it was worth watching that intro just to see me look so uncomfortable. That's funny. Yeah, you are right, Buck. I'm like about Stetson Bennett's eligibility. That's why he's still, in college. Now he's not obviously anymore. This was his last year, but the reason he was here so long was because of the junior college stuff. You're right.
I think from an outward perspective, TCU was great. It was a great story. They had a wonderful year. It was awesome watching them. Even though most of the time, most of us picked against them because we were like, when's the other shoe going to drop, so to speak. I think it makes the Michigan win look bad for Michigan. I don't want to dig into this rabbit hole, but I'm trying to pick and choose like where we go for each topic for the game. But I mean, really, you lost by 6. Then this team turned around and loses by 58. The crazy thing, I think we can all agree, because when it got to like 45-7, I was like, okay, is Georgia going to cover the over-under by themselves? The over-under was 64.5.
I'll say this, though. Michigan needs to stop worrying about how bad they lost to TCU and to clean their program up with this burger thing, man. They need to clean their program up.
Oh, yeah. Well, the national championship victory now set for Georgia is now a 17-game winning streak, which is the longest streak in program history. Last set from 1945 to 1947. And their last loss was the 2021 SEC title game. And their 58-point victory is the largest margin in college football playoff history. And they became the first repeat champion since, guess who?
Alabama.
Yep, 2011, 2012, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And guess who is part of that staff? Kirby Smart. And was the larger margin of victory than last night over a top 5 opponent? Can you guess?
What was there?
Because last night, the 58-point win by Georgia. There's one game that has a larger margin of victory over a top 5 opponent, but it's 1 point higher over a top 5 opponent. Can anybody guess who it was? This is way before our time and way before our grandparents' time. I'll give you a hint.
Then I don't know.
Well, it involves your team, Will.
Okay, I know the game. It was when it was Army in the 40s, right?
Yeah, what year?
Okay, but half of the Notre Dame team from the year before was on Army because they were serving in the military. So that's just how it worked back then.
Right. But it was in 1944.
That team had a lot of our players on it, that Army team did.
Right, and it was in 1944. Number 1 Army went up against number 5 Notre Dame, and Army won 59-0 against Notre Dame in that time. And with 65 points that Georgia scored last night, they are now tied for the most points a team has ever scored against as an AP top 5 opponent. And the 58 points are the most in BCS college football championship game history. So that was a big tanning.
And sorry, US, but that record is now held by Georgia because it was USC by like 38 or something. That's what the graphic said last night. That 05 Orange Bowl.
I will say about this game, to your point, Buck, I'm like how TCU was a great story. I kind of said it all year that, they were squeaking by. I mean, they barely beat SMU. They barely beat West Virginia. Those weren't very good teams. They were finding ways to win all season long, and it built up. And Sonny Dykes and Max Duggan, they led that team. They found ways to win. They won against Baylor on a field goal at the end. I mean, you miss that field goal, you don't win that. I mean, you found ways to win all year, and you beat Kansas State as well. That was when Kansas State wasn't playing as well, and Will Howard didn't have things figured out yet. Everything went their way. They play Michigan in the semifinals, and Michigan throws 2 pick sixes, and their defense isn't very good in the game. And then you go up against Georgia. And Georgia barely beat Missouri earlier in the season because they played poor. If Georgia played a bad game and TCU played their best game, they could have won maybe. But Georgia went out there and gave it their 110%. That was the best game Georgia's played all year. And that was the worst game TCU played all year. And that's what happened. The talent, all you had to do was look at the line of scrimmage. I mean, Georgia's offensive line was not allowing TCU's defensive lineman to even get near Bennett. Stetson Bennett had tons of time to throw. There was just no shot on that front. And then on the other side of the ball, Max Duggan was being pressured all game, and that's why he made mistakes. The defensive line of Georgia was pass rushing them all game. I mean, you look at the skill position players. Yeah, Brock Bowers, he he is an athletic human being, and he gutted TCU's defense. But really, I mean, even though that was really important and all that, Stetson Bennett, he was mistake free. Like I said, TCU would have to get turnovers if they were going to win, which Georgia made absolutely no mistakes. It really came down to the lines of scrimmage. Georgia's just so much more talented on the lines of scrimmage that it gave TCU no shot. In Georgia, they played to their peak potential. That was the best game they played all year. Nobody was going to beat Georgia the way they played last night. Alabama couldn't have beaten them. Nobody could beat them. Ohio State, Georgia did not play as well as they did against Ohio State as they did against TCU. And I know the argument is that Ohio State's a way better team than TCU, but Georgia played their best game of the year. Nobody was going to beat Georgia the way they played last night. Absolutely nobody.
And to your point about Brock Bowers, I tell you one thing: a lot of NFL teams, unfortunately, they're not going to get him in the 2023 draft, but he will be eligible for the 2024 draft. And let me tell you, folks, a lot of teams are going to come begging for him, especially the Titans.
Just like they're going to do for my boy Michael Mayer this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be a 5th round pick.
No, he's not. He's going to be a 1st round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the draft projections, Mike.
Anyway, we're not talking about the draft. That's later this year. My biggest thing with the game is the disrespect from Georgia to TCU. That last drive of the first half, there's no need to try to score a touchdown. You're obviously going to win the game. And you have a comfortable lead. Just kneel the ball and go to half. And if you ask me, technically that should be an interception. If you want to be technical. But because it was a tie ball,
he's going to be like a top 15 pick.
We shall see. I mean, do any of the top 15 teams need a tight end? That's the it was a stupid decision because you got the ball to start the second half anyway. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it.
But yeah, so now we're going to see 2023 where Georgia plays for a possible 3-peat. And who was the last team that had a 3-peat in all of college football?
Was it Notre Dame under Leahy, or did someone do it after?
It was Army from 1944 to 1946.
So here's the thing with that. If you look at the schedule for Georgia, Georgia has 8 games against teams that had 5 losses this year.
Well, and unfortunately,
it's
that
guaranteed.
Oklahoma game, that was going to happen, isn't going to happen because Commissioner Sankey said, "Okay, bro, we're not going to have this Georgia-Oklahoma game happening." So what happens? Georgia has to replace Oklahoma with a cupcake game, and then Oklahoma replaces Georgia with SMU, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sick of these cupcakes in the middle of the season.
I agree.
I don't think any blue blood or any Power 5 should be having any of them, really. But that's just me.
I agree with that. I mean, it's like, they're going to beat them 50-0 in most cases, and it's just a lot of times. I mean, specifically the SEC, it's to make a bowl game easier. That's why a lot of teams that go 6-6, 2-6 in the SEC to make a bowl game. That's what it's really for. I don't necessarily think it's really for the Alabamas and the Georgias. It's just that's what the SEC does. to help them make bowl games easier. It just ends up benefiting those top teams as well because they get a tune-up game before they have to play a tougher game. So it's almost basically a bye.
But it's like, I don't know. Like, to Jeffrey's point, I feel like it's more beneficial to teams like Kentucky, Vanderbilt, if they're ever actually good enough, Mississippi State, A&M, Rutgers, Indiana. The cupcake games benefit the leagues that have the we always suck because we're crap.
I mean, that's why you look at the Big Ten when they went to 9 games in conference. That less teams make a bowl game in the Big Ten than the SEC because you have to win an extra game in the conference. I mean, if you win all your non-conference games, you have to win 3 conference games. Instead, in the SEC, you only have to win 2. It's a lot easier to make a bowl game in the SEC, unless you're, just really bad and you can't. But, I mean, the Big Ten, they moved to 9 games because it's better matchups and, you're playing more conference games and it's more money. But it's also, it hurts come bowl season because fewer teams can make a bowl. And it's only about 1 or 2, but still, it does make a difference.
Yeah. It's just well, do you guys think that Georgia's going to do it again, or are you putting your money on Bama or another team? I know this is early, but do you think they'll do it again?
Well, I remember watching. I heard a little bit about the halftime show where David Pollack was talking about Georgia being like the kings of college football, right in front of Nick Saban.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe Bama wins it all. Maybe Michigan finally wins it all. Who knows? Maybe Georgia runs it back again with a 3-peat.
I really can't say at this point. It's way too early. I mean, I know Georgia's going to be the odds-on favorite early on the season, right early on in the preseason because of what they've done. But, I mean, they're going to have a new quarterback. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Alabama's going to have a new quarterback. It's too early to tell at this point.
I mean, right now, I can't, like Jeffrey, I do agree, can't give like a definitive yes or no. I would have to say probably yes, though. Mm-hmm. Like if you do something to force me to make a pick, I would probably say yes, they're going to repeat. And, that's fine to a degree, but it's like, you wonder why people say they can't stand to watch the sport much anymore.
Well, yeah, I literally said that last night when I was watching the game with my family. I was like, this is why people are frustrated with college football. I mean, you don't want to see the same teams win it or the same teams that are there. That's why everybody was rooting for TCU to win. And then they get beat 65-7. And then it's like, well, you want the game to be competitive. Well, who would have made that game competitive against Georgia? Ohio State, they proved they could be competitive. That game was already played. Alabama maybe would have made it competitive if Bryce Young played at his top performance. Who else? I mean, if Georgia played a bad game, sure, it could be competitive, but Georgia was not going to play a bad game in that championship game the way Kirby Smart had them prepared. So really, Ohio State, Alabama, and that's about it. I don't even think Michigan could have. The way Georgia played, I'm basing off the way Georgia played last night. I don't think Michigan could have. I don't think Clemson could have. I don't think Tennessee could have. It was really just 2 teams.
Yeah, only Alabama maybe could have been competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ohio State could have, obviously, because they were.
Ohio State because they were in Alabama. There's no other team. And that's why, to your point, a lot of people are frustrated with the sport because people are yearning for USC, Miami, Nebraska, Texas, all these teams to, be good again so you can actually have competition for who wins it at the end. I mean, you're never going to have the bottom dwellers win it unless they somehow make a miraculous comeback. But those former, blue bloods or whatever you want to call them, those former teams that used to be great, if they can return to greatness, then it would make the field so much more competitive, and you would not be having Georgia or Alabama dominate the sport, or even Clemson for brief with Dabo. I mean, you would never have this again. It would be, oh, USC's winning it, Nebraska. It's like those teams are, USC's obviously playing better, but if their defense doesn't improve, they're not going to win a championship. But Nebraska's been gone for years. Miami's been gone. Texas can never get above 8-4. It's these teams are capable, but they're not getting there.
Well, Nebraska could get back up in the near future with Matt Rule as head.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe they will, but until they do it, then we're stuck with who we have winning it over and over.
Absolutely not. Will, you need to, at least for next year, you need to kiss that dream goodbye. You're not making the playoffs.
10-2 is the floor next year, Mike. I'm telling you, 10-2 is the floor.
Okay, but guess what? 10-2 doesn't get the job done being an independent.
No, but this is the year. This is going to be like, these are going to be the two least talented teams under Marcus Freeman.
So Will, do you think Tyler Buchner is going to be the guy, or Sam Hartman is going to have a better shot to lead him to the playoffs?
Sam Hartman with a good O-line, there's a possibility. I'm not going to say that he will be, but there's a possibility that he can be a Heisman finalist with the O-line that we have.
I mean, Sam Hartman, if he – Wake. Unfortunately, when you're on a team that's not considered a great team, like that's why Drake May wasn't a Heisman finalist until toward the end of the season, and then obviously struggled at the end because he played for North Carolina. But you look at Sam Hartman's stats; he put up great numbers at Wake, but he played for Wake, so that's why he was never in the Heisman discussion. Plus, he threw a few too many interceptions. If he had fewer picks, then he would have been in the Heisman discussion. But that's totally the key. If Notre Dame is a significantly better team than Wake, and they are, but if they play like a significantly better team, he went 11-3 at Wake. I can definitely see him at Notre Dame with a good offensive line, to your point, and a good defense. They could make the playoffs. That's what I said in the video I made about Notre Dame. Can they make the playoffs? Yes, they can. It's a slight shot, but they can. Sam Hartman's really good.
The question is, yes, Notre Dame can win the big game in the regular season. But can they win the big game in a New Year's Six or a playoff game?
Well, we'll at least win a New Year's Six game in the next 3 years.
No, stop saying that right now. Your best chance was Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl, and you blew it with a 3-touchdown lead.
He blew it.
We had an interim DC. We had an interim DC that year. Mike Elston was our DC.
Is nobody respecting Mike Gundy here? I mean,
Gundy's good, but we had an interim DC. Our defense fell apart. We had an interim DC.
Doesn't matter. You had a 3-touchdown lead. Because if you want to blame defense, then why'd your offense stop functioning? Because your offense should have been able to keep it up.
That's kind of like the Colts Vikings.
And our O-line wasn't the O-line wasn't
but they didn't put up points either.
The O-line was bad that year too. The O-line only got better this year.
Okay, your O-line was bad that year, but yet you were still able to put up 4 touchdowns on Oklahoma State. Have a 3 touchdowns.
There's something called adjustments, Mike.
I know, but you should be able to adjust the same.
Well, we couldn't because our O-line sucked.
Exactly.
But now
Edward just said Gundy is crap. He is a man. He is 40.
I'm a man. I'm 40. Come after me.
Yeah, I mean, I was being sarcastic a bit on the Gundy talk when I was like, not respecting Gundy. I mean, but he's not bad either. To Will's point, I mean, he's not a bad coach. It's not a disgrace to lose to Mike Gundy. Even if you're Notre Dame, the only reason why it's a disgrace is because, to y'all's point, Jackson Buck, I'm like, Notre Dame has choked so many of these games that when you keep
But we're going to be more talented. We're going to be more talented, and we're going to have.
But if Notre Dame can start to win these games, then that narrative will go away. So
we've been hearing that things are going to get better for years.
Supposed to be 2 and 3 years ago when you played Bama in the playoff, and then the year before you played Clemson in the playoff, and look what happened.
We weren't as talented as Clemson and Bama, but with the recruits coming in, that talent gap will shrink.
Spencer Rattler, Buckeye Mike. At least they did beat Spencer Rattler.
Well, I mean, I could single-handedly beat Spencer Rattler.
You guys picked everyone, all 3 of you, all 3 3 of you guys
Yeah,
picked.
and you almost didn't
I'm saying
To be
beat
nothing.
fair, I only
Almost
picked South
didn't beat
Carolina
them.
about 4, but
Shoot, I didn't
did
say
pick 'em,
anything.
but-
Jeffrey's the one talking about Spencer Rattler for me.
No, I'm actually defending Will here. At least they beat Spencer Rattler. I mean,
True.
they won a pseudo big game. That's not a not big game. It's kind of a big game.
Not a big game. So all of a sudden, the
Oh,
whatever
they
bowl
beat
was.
the SEC, man.
The Gator Bowl.
We've beaten the
real,
SEC.
if this was the real, then it would be like, oh, that you can't beat the SEC Notre Dame. You can't beat them, but they did. They won.
No, the narrative is not Notre Dame. It's Ohio State can't beat the SEC, and that's blatantly obvious unless you're like
Ohio
stacked.
State would have beaten South Carolina.
If
Oh, yeah.
Marvin Harris hadn't
They
got
almost beat Georgia, and they would have, to Jackson's point, Marvin Harrison Jr. was in the game. They would have.
Well, I think if Ryan, because that's the thing, and I want to touch on this briefly because we're supposed to talk about the game, but Ohio State had 5 drives in the fourth quarter, 2 field goals, 3 punts. So
Are you
it's
Ryan Day out? Are you Ryan Day out? Like, what happened with? Are you because of the offensive wasn't as good down the stretch? Do you think that this is Day's fault and that he should go?
I don't think Ryan Day should go, but a perfect example of Ryan Day slowing it down, kind of to Buckeye Mike's point of how he does, when they have a lead, kind of take their foot off the gas. All you got to do is look at 2020 Ohio State, Indiana. I mean, when they were up 35-7, and then Penix leads them all the way back, ties the game, and then Ohio State has to score one more touchdown to win. If Ohio State had kept their foot on the gas, they still could have beaten Indiana by a lot. So, to your point, he needs to do a better job of continuing to do what got you the lead. You got to continue to play. Georgia did that against TCU. Again, TCU's a weaker team, but look at what they did. They just kept destroying them the whole game, and then they beat them 65-7. To Troy V's point, Buckeyes, again, lost their tight end running back and their best wide receiver in the game. I've pointed that out a gazillion times. I completely agree. If they did not have those injuries, Ohio State wins. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that was a quarterback having his first start in forever, and he was rusty and not as good. But if he was healthy the whole year, we probably would have beaten USC, we would have beaten Stanford, and we would have beaten Carolina by 3 to 4 scores.
okay, man.
And Marshall.
Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Stanford.
Okay.
Stanford.
See, that's the difference between you and me, and why it makes me upset when people come after me, because you have the gold domer blinders on all the time. Me, I try to be as real as possible.
Well, Buckeye Mike, to be fair, you are rooting for a team that in most years in a one-loss team is a bad season for Ohio State, whereas with Notre Dame, they've been a 3-4 loss team many times lately.
But
The
the point is-
expectations are nowhere near as high for Notre Dame right now.
No, I know.
Arguably they should be, but Notre Dame hasn't been at Ohio State's level. That's why it's different. I mean,
what I'm saying is, because Notre Dame is an independent, you have to go undefeated every year.
We could have one loss most years.
Well,
especially-
sorry,
they did make the playoff with one loss that one time. Might have been twice. I can't remember. It was once, though, they did.
once.
Mm-hmm.
But why? Because of where they were positioned at the end. And
Like
things just
2015, if we didn't choke against Stanford, we would have been with one loss as well.
see choke. And see, that's the thing, though,
Well, that was
Jeffrey.
because we had Brian Van Gorder as our defensive coordinator. Like, that guy was literally an idiot. I could have called a better defensive game plan than what Brian Van Gorder did, and I'm not that smart.
I agree with you as far as the rest of the fan base, and that's why it makes people come after me, even though I'm better of the fan base. Because like you said, most of the fan base, like, oh my God, 11-2, Rose Bowl champions. Screw you, Ryan Day. Get out of here. We don't want you. You can't win anything. Really? The dude's like 45-6. He's pretty close to Urban Meyer.
The problem with having so much talent on a team like Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia is that you have to win so much or the fan base is upset because they know that you have all that talent. Look at Georgia. Before these last 2 years, does anybody remember Kirby Smart? Oh, he can't win the big game. He can't, all they talked about was that 2017 national championship loss to Alabama where they were winning the whole time. And then how many times they choked the SEC championship game away to Alabama? They were winning like 3 or 4 years in a row where they had the lead in the second half and they lose. That's all he talks about. Kirby Smart can't win the big game. He's going to be fired in a couple years. And then the last 2 years they won a national championship, and now Kirby Smart's the greatest coach of all time. I mean, it literally that is how ridiculous fans are for certain teams. And their mindset is that you have to win, and I totally get it. When you have that much talent, you expect to win championships or close to that.
Yeah,
but Kirby Smart is the same guy he was then that he is now. He's not suddenly better. It's just his teams are more talented now than they were then.
Exactly. And the Georgia fans that are watching this show, let me warn you, there's going to be a bunch of bandwagon fans following your trail. I should know because
That was Bob Davey. That was literally Bob Davey, who's an idiot. Like
matter still counts in the record book
because of
we wouldn't see. The thing is with Notre Dame. In between the era between Lou Holtz and Brian Kelly, we never got the coach we wanted. When Bob Davey was getting the job, we wanted Gary Barnett. When Ty Willingham got the job, we wanted George O'Leary. When Charlie Weiss wanted the job, we got Urban Meyer. But we got our second choice coaches every time back then, so we were bad.
Freaking Charlie Weiss was a decent coach. He coached the Patriots to a Super Bowl.
Well, if we would have had Urban Meyer, we would have had more success. But he chose Florida instead of Notre Dame, which sucks. But it's just
what's the lesson, kids? Do not hire Bill Belichick assistants.
Yeah, and 2004 was with Ty Willingham. They both sucked.
And one thing to remember, Georgia fans, you're going to see a lot of bandwagon fans, and you're going to hear a lot of people say, I was always a big Georgia fan. Ask them what their record. Ask those bandwagon fans what their record was in 06. Just as an example, take it from me as a Bama fan. We got a lot of those bandwagon fans. So.
Oh, I know, man. I'm with you because so many people say I'm a bandwagon fan. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a bandwagon fan. I've been watching them since I was like 3, And then I actually know people that are bandwagon fans. Will be like, man, I've been watching Alabama football since I was a kid, and it's like I'll be like, well, what happened, in the 90s? Like, who was quarterback? Who, they don't know. It's because they just rooted for them because they were the best team. Now Alabama's technically not the best team anymore. It's Georgia, right. So I agree with you. It's the same thing. It's ridiculous, but it is.
Yeah.
So you can't stop.
So, Georgia fans that get a hold of this episode, watch out for that.
So to your point, like about Kirby, it's like. I really only know this because I ended up going back and watching it, stumbled upon it. Uncle Lou smashed the crap out of his TV after Georgia lost to Georgia Tech under Kirby Smart in 2016.
Yeah, in his first season.
Mm-hmm.
After the Mark Richt tenure, which he got fired for not winning enough.
Yeah, it was John Cooper, Earl Bruce. All over again. I mean, the thing is, Georgia, I had respect for you, rooted for you guys last year. You have lost all my respect. All my respect. Because when you're up 52-7, your starters are not supposed to be in there. Your starters could have been benched at halftime. I don't care you want to jam it down their throats and make them choke on their own success.
I like this one right here. Urban is good for leaving a team in sanctions.
I mean, he won 2 national championships with Florida. He would have won at least one with Notre Dame.
Sad. True. Yeah, I wonder why they didn't go for him instead. I don't know why they didn't wait it out for Urban instead. They should have been a little patient in 2021, but oh well.
Well, we wanted to save that recruiting class, and I don't
Edward said, "I bet you would. Will you never see a natty win?"
we'll
Come
see.
on.
I'll see one, man. I'll see one.
Troy
That'd
says
be-
if they're aggressive, they will get that natty.
Yeah.
It's like going back to the original thing. It's like I only watch the games because I love the sport. I don't really, and I'm even talking about Ohio State with these blowout wins. I am losing interest in the sport. Yes, I want to see Ohio State win. But why am I watching a game that's 54-10 in the third quarter, and the freaking starters are still out there?
Well, they learned their lesson from 2017 against Bama, I guess. They were scared that they were going to choke it.
Yeah. They were like,
Really?
we're not letting that happen again.
The thing is though, you dump the Gatorade on Kirby 5 minutes to go in the game.
That's fair. I mean, yeah.
Will just needs to tell Notre Dame to bend some runs.
What does that mean? Bend some runs.
Hell if I know.
Is there an Urban Dictionary thing? Is this something we shouldn't say out loud?
I don't know. But we do have some stories that we should talk about, like Blake Corum returning to Michigan for the 2023 season. Gentlemen, what's the reaction on Blake Corum returning for Michigan? I mean, what a dynamic duo that's going to be. Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. Holy crap, that's going to be big.
That was stupid.
Why is
Do you
that?
think that he would have returned if he hadn't have got hurt, or do you think he would have returned anyway?
He would have went to the draft.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's what I thought.
Or it could be he's looking to get that natty.
He wants a natty, but here's the thing, and we'll talk more about this in a bit. But there's so much limbo with Harbaugh that everyone's starting to point towards him leaving Michigan. That's like, what is the point of even staying? Because if
Well,
Harbaugh
if they just put an assistant coach in as head coach, they'll probably have the same amount of success if they keep the coordinators.
Well, he is a top candidate.
At least short
after
term.
the
I'm not sure the
interview with-
recruiting would be as good, but at least the short
Yeah,
term.
Yeah, I'm seeing that he's a top candidate for the Broncos after the interview with them. So it's kind of like Harbaugh and Russell Wilson. Wow, that would be a pretty good dynamic duo right there.
This is a good point by Troy. He's hurt more than he's letting on and doesn't want to go through the combine.
Mm-hmm. That could be true. I mean, because he definitely had a really good shot to be drafted fairly high, and then he gets hurt. It just, to me, that's why he's coming back. But you don't know.
Corum behind that
But
overrated.
what about the Colts? I would suspect that the Colts would want to get Harbaugh.
The Colts is the best job available, I think.
How's that?
I mean, I feel like if they just do if they just get like a better quarterback, and I feel like they can.
Do
at
you
least
guys
make the
think
playoffs.
if Jim Harbaugh was smart, he'd stay at Michigan or take one of the NFL jobs?
Oh, I would stay at Michigan, but he
too.
wants to. He wants that ring. He wants to. He doesn't want his brother nagging him every Thanksgiving, showing him that ring. He wants.
Yeah,
he wants a championship.
I think he's going
Wants a
for that.
Super Bowl.
NFL, man.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm thinking it's
You can have more and better success and not have to take as to get the success in the NFL. As long as you go to a decent to not crappy, throw in the trash, dumpster fire team.
Is that you talking about like the Arizona Cardinals or the Panthers or what? I mean,
Both.
there is a
Panthers
bright
are better
side of
than the
him going to
Cardinals,
the
right?
Cardinals, Mike. Going up against his big rival, Pete Carroll, twice a year.
Panthers
And
are
he
better
gets
than.
revenge against the 49ers.
What'd you say, Buckeye Mike?
I said, just because you live in the state, yes, the Panthers are better than the Cardinals.
Well, I mean, come on, man. I mean, they're on the TV every week. You got to turn something on, man, on Sundays. I mean, I think they're a little better. I mean, they did go 7-10 this past season. I mean, 7-10, it wasn't bad. Sam Darnold went 6-5. I mean, or 5-6, something like that as a starter. It wasn't completely awful. I mean, who knows?
Oh, Clint Moses was talking about the Broncos have no draft picks and no cap space. with
No one
Russell
wants to
Wilson.
go there. No one wants to go to
But
Denver.
That's
They're going
a
to get
bad situation.
The
man.
bright side of Harbaugh going to the Cardinals would be this. Going up against his biggest rival, Pete Carroll, twice a year, and he gets a shot at revenge twice a year against the 49ers. Think
Nope.
about it.
Sorry,
get-
Edward.
You get a shot at revenge against the team that fired you. So, I mean, that would be pretty cool.
That's what I'm saying, Troy. He's only going to go to somewhere where you can almost have instant success. He's not going to last at teams like Arizona, who suck, the Panthers, who suck.
The
Can't even
Panthers
get.
keep their interim coach. Man. He did a good job. I think they should keep their interim coach.
Oh, that
Steve
NFC
Wilks.
South division is
Yeah.
easy
Steve
peasy.
Wilks.
I mean, really think about it. If you really, really, really think about it, I mean,
Right.
Tom Brady's not going to be at the Bucs forever. Who knows how long he's going to be playing quarterback?
Oh, that's what
If you're at the Panthers, I mean, there's a really decent shot you could win the division if Jim Harbaugh went to the Panthers. And all you got to do is probably go 10-7.
Well, they
Make
cream
playoffs.
that whole division. That's what they would do if Harbaugh was their head coach.
I mean, again, I'm not, full blown like that really matters either way. It's just it would be kind of cool to see the Panthers a little bit better. I mean, I don't think they're a complete lost cause like some teams are. I mean, they're not completely awful.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying they are or aren't realistically. I'm just saying, like, it's got to be somewhere you could have instant success. Otherwise, because here's the thing, he's playing little tipsy bitsy with this crap.
Yeah,
And
which is,
Michigan
it's kind of a
and-
little frustrating because I mean, if you're a Michigan fan, you just want to find out whether he's leaving or staying. You don't like the drawn out, the "oh, is he going?" I mean,
Will
like with
he,
Deion
won't he?
Sanders, it was kind of funny because I mean, even though for the few Jackson State fans out there, I mean, it was frustrating that he was more likely going to leave and where was he going to go? But that was kind of funny watching him. Is he going to go to Cincinnati, Colorado, Georgia Tech, Auburn, all those schools? But
Yeah, Colts and Panthers are the best.
But with Jim Harbaugh for Michigan fans, it's just awful because I mean they just want to know whether he's coming or staying, or staying
why-
or leaving or whatever. So
Edward, that's why if Michigan was here, you'd be able to better see it. But our background is Jim Harbaugh in a Colts coaching uniform.
Oh, Clint Moses
should
is
have been
asking.
Panthers though.
It's something
Clint
else we're going
Moses is asking.
You should have
Pete-
photoshopped the Panthers, man.
Well, I didn't think about it.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
I mean,
Edward is saying Cards division is way hard to win. Well, it may get a little easier, if Sean McVay does leave the Rams. Because, I mean, think about it. No cap space, not enough draft picks in LA. And Seahawks, they seem to be doing okay, but
I agree with your point, Troy. As a Buckeye fan, I kind of enjoy the Harbaugh circus of will or won't he leave, grab some pop, enjoy the freak show. I completely agree. That's why I said as a Michigan, not me, but as a Michigan fan, a person in the third person, a Michigan fan would be upset. But to your point, as a Buckeye fan, yeah, I mean that's the greatest thing in the world, man. I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter to me. He's either gonna leave or stay at Michigan. It doesn't really matter to me either way.
It's funny to me that, like, as a Buckeye fan and having Michigan fan family members. It's funny to me when I'm like, well, Harbaugh is about 90% to 95% out the door. And they come back with, no, he's not. He already tried that. He said he wasn't going to do that anymore. Right? And then, it's like coming off, okay. He said he isn't guaranteeing he's going to beat him, but he most likely, with a bunch of confidence, believes he'll be there. And then you hear the reports coming out of, if he's offered a good enough offer, then he'll take it.
Mm. Moses says Kingsbury back to college.
I'm hearing he's going to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama. I'm hearing he's leaving Canada for that job.
Well, there's a
possibility.
There's
The
also
NFL
a
head coaching jobs are looking at him an offensive coordinator. That's funny right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
and there's a possibility that he stays in the NFL as the Patriots offensive coordinator, but we don't really know for sure yet.
To Edwards' point, he said head coaching jobs are looking at. I wouldn't see why any of the available jobs would take him. I mean, I could see him as an offensive coordinator, but I mean, you saw what he did at the Cardinals. The defenses were terrible.
No. We're talking about this. Cliff Kingsbury just sucks all together and just needs to leave football. Enough said.
He can coach offense, but he shouldn't be the.
I'm fine with. I want him. I would take him in Washington, honestly, as offensive coordinator.
This was one of the topics we were going to bring up, Mike. To be fair, I'm just pointing.
I know right now.
Okay.
But I guess we're listening to the chat so they can pull the show now. So, but to your point, you have bigger problems to deal with. You don't need Kingsbury. So don't even say that.
Well, I mean, the problem is, like, who can fire Snyder? Like, no one can fire Snyder. It's the thing.
Roger Goodell.
He's a coward.
Yeah, if he grew hair, he would do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to calmly respond to this and say no. Because I don't want to seem like the crazy one anymore. Actually, he's already made it home. He's already been to the national championship. Yes, he's already been to the national championship before Jim Harbaugh even got there. So, I mean,
man, that's a lot of dirt if you're born on third base. Good Lord.
Well, that's what Harbaugh said. Harbaugh's just an idiot. A moron.
I don't know what he meant. I don't know what it meant, but I don't know if he was literally. Well, I know it doesn't literally mean he was born on third base.
All he's talking about is, man, Michigan copped out and used COVID to not play the game in 2020 because they were scared of us. Ryan, when he found out about that information, Ryan said, okay, we're just going to hang 100 on you next year. They didn't, obviously. I think 100 was too big of a comment. Plus, you can't be Mr. Know-It-All and know that there was going to be that snowstorm in Ann Arbor. But when they beat them, after they beat them last year, Harbaugh on the post game said they was a guy who was born on third base, meaning it was easy for him to end up with the record he has because of what he had as talent. So, but Kingsbury stuff, yeah, it's overrated. He'll be an OC with the worst team that the Giants. Stop being a head coach because you're not good.
He's obviously not a good head coach, but I do wonder if Bama gets him. But that means Bill O'Brien goes back.
Well, Alabama community wants Bill O'Brien gone.
Oh, we all do.
I mean, unless if you're an Auburn fan,
Yeah,
they're like,
Or
hey, maybe we
Tennessee.
can actually win because they still have Bill O'Brien.
So the AP poll, the final AP poll for this season was released. It had Georgia 1, TCU 2, Michigan 3, Ohio State 4, Alabama 5. What do we think about that?
Poll's a joke, man. The AP poll's a joke.
Think so?
Like the playoff poll is the only one that matters now. Like, why are you even here, AP poll?
Right.
But, you know, it is a nice touch that Mississippi State's number 20. So,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, they should be. They're 9-4, and they're an SEC team. I mean, they're going to be ranked.
yeah. And, you know, respect to the Pirate. So there you go. But, yeah, are we ready yet to talk about some Blake Corum and some Cam Rising and some other returnees for 2023?
Mm-hmm. TCU is still going to be in the. I mean, sorry, not TCU. Utah is still going to be in the mix in the Pac-12 with Cam Rising. Like, I don't think they're one of the favorites, but they can definitely upset some teams next year with Cam back.
Yeah, that Pac-12 is stacked.
It is stacked. I mean, there's not really any great teams. I mean, USC isn't going to be a great team until they get rid of the Grinch.
Yeah, they made an announcement today that the Grinch is returning for 2023, which basically means he's on shaky ground for half of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex Grant should not have been retained for
Yeah.
USC. I mean,
But yeah,
their defense was terrible, and you aren't going to change it. So, I mean, again, USC needs to be content winning 9, 10, 11 games because they're not going to be able to win the whole thing with that defense. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, they're just going to stay what a typical Lincoln Riley team is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so, when I heard this hire with Lincoln and Riley, I said this was not going to be a good hire.
Mm-hmm.
He was right. Why? He never had a defense.
Well, it was a good hire if you wanted to improve from 4-8 to 11-2, but it's not a good hire if you want to win it all.
That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know that's what you mean. I'm just saying from the perspective of, at least they're better than they were before. They're just never going to make the ultimate goal. So, I mean, again, it is what it is. I mean, no matter how much, USC fans want to win with Lincoln Riley, they're not going to win until he invests in defense, just like Cliff Kingsbury with the Cardinals. Their defense was terrible. And getting J.J. Watt at the end of his career does not count. It doesn't count. That is making your defense better.
Yep,
you have to have a good defensive coordinator, and you have to coach up, and you have to have talent on the defense and coach it up, and that's how you win. You can't have a bad coordinator and no talent, or in the case of the Cardinals, older talent. It just doesn't work that way.
Okay, well, here's the thing. To Clint's stupid point is, if that's the case, then why is it still stink in Los Angeles, huh? People want to live in Los Angeles. They love Los Angeles. So if you want to use that defense, it kind of falls apart when you see he's at USC in Los Angeles, California, where people want to live.
Well, it has to be a joke because if you're using that argument, then nobody would be going to play offense for Oklahoma either.
Yeah, it's a joke.
I mean, it has to be. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the Oklahoma would be like Kansas football pre this year where they're actually competent, where you're going 1-11 if no one wants to be there.
But yeah, that Pac-12 is going to be stacked. I don't know how Oregon State will do. I mean, way too early to say, but not so sure passing game is going to get better with DJ Ukulele.
I really would like to, Clint's here. So, Clint, how do you feel about DJ Uyunglele? I wish Connor Johnson was in here, man, because that really is an interesting point. I mean, you look at DJ, like, oh, he's the highest rated quarterback that Oregon State's ever had, but it's like, is he actually going to help Oregon State? I'm not sure. He could, but he could also struggle really bad too. And Oregon State actually takes a step back with a quarterback that's supposed to make you better.
I mean, I feel like, for example, if you want me, hold on. If you want me to give respect on DJ's name, DJ needs to win games 8 to 10 games.
Well, Oregon State won 10 games this year with Ben Branson at quarterback. So
okay, all 12 games.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not trying to up the ante for DJ, but I'm not. But I mean, really, Oregon State had a really good year with not the greatest quarterback play in the world. I mean, it got the job done. I mean, Ben Branson didn't, ruin it for him, but yeah, I mean, DJ, he probably should win a lot of games. I mean, he's a talented quarterback. Has all the potential, but he hasn't consistently put it together. So if he has a great year, if he plays to his potential, Oregon State could win more than 10 games. But I don't know if he will.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be. I think DJ will do well. I just don't know if he's going to win the Pac-12, but I do think that he'll have a good year, and I do think that Oregon State will be better. But I know the whole Pac-12 is going to be good. So
yeah, you're gonna have USC with returning Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams. You're gonna have Michael Penix returning at Washington. Bo Nix in Oregon coming back. You're running it back. The two-time defending conference champ Utah. But this time they have a tough non-conference schedule, start things off. And Colorado, they're gonna be way better than they were this year with Coach Primetime. So that it's gonna be pretty fun watching Colorado as well. But Blake Corum returning to Michigan, I mean, that's going to be really big in 2023. And I do think, in a way, it does help them. I mean, yeah, they didn't necessarily need him against Ohio State this year. But I tell you what, though, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, I mean, that's going to be a beautiful dynamic duo to look forward to in 2023.
The key for Michigan is J.J. McCarthy. I mean, literally, if Michigan wants to win a title, he has to not make mistakes. Stetson Bennett, to everyone's credit to him or discredit, however side of the spectrum you look at it, the fact he's on the best team in college football, he didn't make mistakes in either game against Ohio State or TCU. He played perfect. He didn't make any mistakes. Michigan beats TCU if J.J. McCarthy does not throw the 2 pick sixes. If Michigan's going to have a shot, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, they're going to run all over the Big Ten. They're going to run all over the Big Ten, and they're going to win all their games that are against teams that are worse than them, more than likely. But when it matters, when they get to the big games, whether it's playing Ohio State again or whether if they make the playoff and whoever they play in the playoffs, if they're going to win, it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. He's going to have to play better. And their defense has to be a bit better as well. I mean, you still gave up a lot of points to TCU, even though the 2 pick sixes. So their defense has to get better, and JJ McCarthy cannot make mistakes in big games.
Also,
And-
Michigan and
Well-
they all every time they have like high expectations going into the season.
Here's the thing. To your point, Jeffrey, whoever the coach is, whether it's Harbaugh or it's possibly Mike Hart, whoever the head coach is going into next year, tell McCarthy to shut the bleep up. Just tell him to shut up and do not run his mouth at all. Tell him to stay quiet. Because guess what? Lake Corum promised they'd be back this year. They came back. They lost again. JJ McCarthy said, we'll be back next year. Well, if you keep running your mouth, you're going to keep losing in the games you're not supposed to lose. So shut up.
You're basically comparing it to Texas with the we're back, and everything,
Yeah.
I guess.
Shut up and prove it first. How about you say that after you win one game in the playoff? Shut up. And to Edward's point, I can't remember where it is in the chat. He can't throw. I've been saying that, but people want to attack me. He cannot throw. Oh, yeah, he can throw the ball to a wide-open guy. Good job. I could throw that deep of a bomb to somebody wide open the way the receivers do wide open. Because they just burn everybody. They're like Ohio State's receivers. They burn everybody. And that's a joke, Clint. Wisconsin and Nebraska are not yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's gonna take Nebraska a few years. 2 or 3 years to
Wisconsin, too.
get back to beating Michigan and Ohio State potentially. It's not even a guarantee. They're gonna have to get a lot better. Nebraska is not in good shape now. Obviously, the transfer portal can turn programs around. Washington 4-8 to 11-2, USC, but I don't know if Nebraska is really ripping up the roads that much in the portal yet, in recruiting yet to have a big turnaround. Wisconsin, they got more than Nebraska does currently, but it's going to take them a little bit of time to, challenge them. Unless Michigan just, to y'all's point, chokes, then maybe,
If Mike Hart is the head coach, that team will crap. Marking out.
Hey, Troy's right. I thought JJ did a good job throwing it to the TCD in the playoff as well. Those were perfect throws, man. You just give them the win.
I never said 3 yards on 5 us, Clint. It hasn't been that way since.
Yeah, I was like the only team that's still trying to play that way, and it doesn't work anymore. You have to open it up. That's why Charlie Jones left for Purdue. Charlie Jones was not getting anything going at Iowa because they don't throw the ball enough, and when they do, it's 3rd and 10 and it's incomplete. You got to throw the ball on first down sometimes. You cannot run the football on first down every single time. It just doesn't work. I know no one cares, but that's why the Indiana offensive coordinator got fired in 2021, because you've got, even though he was hobbled and lost his confidence, you have Michael Penix, but you're going to run the ball on first down every time. That's why you're fired. Can't do that. You have to throw the ball on first down sometimes. If they know you're going to run the ball every first down, they're going to stop it. So, again, you have to throw the ball on different downs. You have to mix things up, or you're never going to win in 2023.
And that's why I'm telling you they need to get rid of Brian Ferentz. I'm sorry, Kirk. I know he's your kid. But you should treat your kid the same way you treat all your other assistants. The same way. If you're going to give special treatment to your kid, you need to give special treatment to the rest of your staff.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins and Brian Ferentz is reason why that you do not hire your friends and family to work for you. Because anytime you got work problems with family and friends, it's going to come home with you.
You can make them your GA, but don't make them like your defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator or even wide receiver coach.
Technically, those were touchdowns. For the other team. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. It's not good.
Let's act normal for now, and hopefully he comes back soon.
But yeah, it's but yeah.
So the next thing, hmm, the next thing would be um
Our bold predictions, right?
well, he's not here.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. What do we think about Kentucky bringing them?
Liam Cullen getting him to return.
Yeah,
Pretty big for Kentucky, especially with what he's got at quarterback
internet.
next year. Devin Leary, man. Like, that's
Yeah.
going to be super big. But will it result in a breakout year in 2018, 2021 is the question.
8 wins.
yeah, it's going to be an average, normal Kentucky year. I'd love to see what DeReal thinks because DeReal was probably like, "Oh my God, Devin Leary and this dude, we're gonna win the SEC." Okay,
Yeah.
dude.
Darrell, you're welcome to come on here to tell us what you really think Kentucky's going to do against certain teams in the SEC.
Man, I don't know why my internet keeps dying. It just did it again. Sorry about that.
That's okay,
I
man.
might just have to keep my camera off so I won't freeze in action anymore. But yeah, with Kentucky and all that, man. I mean, the real is hilarious, man. I mean, he's awesome. You know, if you're a guy that loves talking about a team that's not actually that good and saying they're going to win it all, but I mean, Kentucky is not built, you know, to win 10, 11 games this time, you know, all the time. I mean, Mark Stoops, he's done a really good job, but I mean, Kentucky's got a long way to go. And I mean, I know you got Devin Leary, but I mean, Devin Leary didn't even play in the bowl game, and there's more likely when at the end of the Kentucky season, he's not going to play in the bowl game for Kentucky either if they make it. Those are
But also, to Troy B's question, does Kentucky have a football team? Does Kentucky even have a basketball team right now? Good Lord.
That is accurate. That they just lost to South Carolina at home. Their first home loss in 28 games. I have no idea. I mean, I mean, Calipari again. I know we're for football here, but just real quick, Calipari, he wins when he's got talent everywhere, you know, and they don't have as much of it, and he's struggling. It's just the way it is. I mean, you got to have talent for some of these coaches to win.
I mean, to your point, we're currently a football.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to get basketball.
This particular live stream is just football, but I just threw that out.
Right, and I guess I can say this because it kind of wraps things around, but I think Calipari is getting the karma he deserves for saying the comments he said in the offseason about the football team, saying that Kentucky's a basketball school. Well, let's see. Kentucky just made their what? Bowl game in a row? Something crazy for Kentucky like that?
Yeah, when's the last time they made it to the Final Four? Oh, right, 2015.
And you just got bounced in the first round by St. Peter's. And you just lost to a team that lost to Tennessee by 43 points.
And to Edward's point down here, every coach needs talent, to be honest. Yes, but Jay Wright won 2 national titles with a lot less talent than Calipari's had in his career.
You know who was the best
team? You have to have good players, but if you're a great coach, you win with less talent.
Mike Bray needs to go, man. Mike Bray needs to be fired.
The best player, in my opinion,
who are you going to get to replace Mike Bray, Will?
Someone's better. We need some assistant. I don't know. Someone's got to be better. Like
Dad Mata.
Yeah, that's just kind of like no, that's not
That
much
would
of
be an
answer.
interesting hire, honestly.
I mean, he
What were you
coached at
saying,
Ohio
Buck,
State.
Mike, about the best player on Villanova's team? Real quick, what were you saying?
So, in my opinion, the best player on the Villanova teams during his 2 championships
Mhm.
had to be my dude, Dante DiVincenzo. I love that guy.
And Dante DiVincenzo is nowhere near as good as the 10 or 15 best players that Calipari's ever had to play for him.
What up, traveling fools? How are you, man?
Up in the house.
There
It's
we
all
go.
about the you. It's all about the
About the
you.
you. It's
I
all
agree
about
with that
the
word about the title for senior versus freshman. Still, it's impressive what Jerry did.
you.
Ryan and James. That's my opinion. Dante was my favorite player on Villanova. That's my opinion. Was he actually the best player? Probably not, but I like him the most.
Well, a very underrated player. You know, it was kind of after when they were good. Phil Booth was underrated.
Ryan
I'll tell you-
Archidiakono was a.
I'll tell you one team who seems to have disappeared since their Final Four run. No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about who they played. Georgetown has basically disappeared since we beat them in the Final Four.
I grew up going to Georgetown games, man. Like I went to a ton of Georgetown games. They always choked in the tournament, but they're fun and they're cheap. The tickets were pretty cheap.
I'm sure they're pretty cheap now
Oh yeah.
compared
This
to
U
everything else.
is not the U, Edward. This is the U Miami, not the U for Utah. Oh, that's the okay. Never mind. This is Utah. This is okay. Actually, that makes
How
sense.
about we just say instead of hand signals that Miami's not very good at football right now and they need to get better?
Miami sucks at basketball too.
Are they having a
Well,
bad year?
they're better than they used to be because they got all those players in the portal because of that billionaire.
True. The problem right now with college,
They're ranked 16th in the country, Mike. They're in the top 25.
I don't care. They suck.
They almost made the Final Four. They were in the Elite Eight.
When?
Last year, they were in the Elite Eight.
Are
They
you
lost
sure?
to Kansas. Yes.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Isaiah Wong, their guard, he's really good. I
You
mean,
would know, but I believe you.
I mean, it happened. I mean, again, they're pretty good this year because I mean they got Nigel Pack, you know, and that center.
Okay.
Kind of hard to pronounce. But
Just if you want to credit something to why I don't like ACC teams,
well, yeah, I mean, again, I mean Miami, the guy, you know, the billionaire guy, he helped Miami out. I mean, that's why they're
John
better.
Ruiz, yeah.
I mean, otherwise they probably wouldn't be doing very good because Jim Larinaga was there for a while and they weren't winning anything.
They had
Okay.
some good years and some bad years with Jim.
hey, I confess, Miami's a good basketball team,
Mm-hmm.
but people don't really care enough.
Well, to Troy's point here, we miss one of the best era of college basketball back when the Big East was must-watch TV and the A's was something special.
That was
yeah,
a good
I mean,
30 for 30.
The 80s
Oh, I love that.
were really good in basketball, man. I mean, you had
You,
a lot of other
You know-
teams besides the normal teams win.
you know who the best underrated player that play basketball at Syracuse was?
Pearl Washington.
I'm thinking within the last 25
Kemba
years.
Walker. Kemba Walker.
He-
Kimball Walker played for UConn.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
so-
said. Kemba Walker, Connecticut, 2011. Cardiac Kimbo.
Well, I thought Buck was asking, or Will was asking Syracuse or something. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the only
my
players
mistake.
that
I
come
thought
to
you
my
were saying
mind,
Big East in general.
the only player that comes to my mind, the two players for Syracuse is Christmas and Fair. Those are the two that come to my mind. I remember those guys back like 10 years ago.
Really?
Jerry
Yeah.
McNamara. What about him?
Those guys come to my mind.
Scoop Yardine. That was a good name. I remember that name. Scoop.
So you don't remember in the Big East tournament when Syracuse and UConn were in the Big East when my guy Jeremy McNamara went off on UConn, and I think it was the Big East semifinal.
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember that?
Well, I mean, I was younger. I'm just talking about in the last 18 years.
Yeah, I remember. Now that you mentioned it, I remember.
I mean, I know what you're talking about. I'm just saying in the last 10 years,
If
those are the two I remember.
If you go, no, I said within the last 25 years.
Oh, I know you did. I'm talking about when I actually watched the game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where I can
Yeah,
remember.
You're good. I get you. I mean, to your point, this is basically our last football show. Talking about current games anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're basically a basketball team now.
Yeah.
We can talk about some recruiting, but that's probably going to be it.
Yep. It's summer, man. Where do we begin?
It's not
Michael
even
Carter
spring
Williams
yet.
was a dog.
So here.
He was good.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said underrated. No way to me is not an underrated
Oh yeah,
player.
obviously, Carmel. But yeah, I mean CJ Fair. I mean, well, he's underrated.
I remember those days, man, when Otto Porter was going up against Michael Carter Williams. Those were fun days to watch Big East basketball.
So, with the championship game in Houston this year, who do we think is going to currently, because I know I don't want to completely spoil a later show, but if we had to right now pick the Final Four, who's going to make it to Houston right now?
It's early, but if I had to say Kansas,
Yes.
definitely Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody can really definitively pick Purdue. They've never been to one.
They always choke every time they're good.
Who just lost to Rutgers
Yeah.
and beat an Ohio State team that should have beat them.
I watched the game. That they should have won. Arizona is fluky. I mean, they have moments where they look national title good, and then they lose to Washington State at home and at Utah. So I don't know. I don't think Arizona is going to be able to do it. Clint
So
just
I
said
think-
North Carolina, Kansas, Houston, Purdue. Again, Purdue's
North Carolina
never
is
been to
not
the
very
Final Four.
good right now. They aren't playing good basketball, but they could turn it around.
I will say, I'll go Kansas. Let's see who's going to be the Cinderellas. Kansas. So I'll go Kansas, Houston. Gonzaga. I guess that's the four. The last team will be Ohio State. No, I'm kidding. It's gonna be it's gonna be Alabama.
I'm gonna say
that's a good one. That's a good one. I could see Alabama. I mean, you kind of feel maybe they'll possibly choke too, but it's possible.
I'm gonna say Kansas State. Kansas State's looking legit right now. Alabama and Houston.
Ooh.
Wait, so you're gonna have teams in the same conference in the Final Four?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it doesn't really. Whatever. It doesn't really matter right now.
UCLA and the Final
UCLA
Four.
could make it. They could
I
make
mean,
it.
it's not impossible this year. I mean, it's not impossible, but
Never-
I don't know, man. It's really tough to pick because I mean the problem with the tournament anyway is that the chokeability factor. I mean that's why a team like Purdue you can't pick them because I mean they choke. I mean for the longest time, I mean when Duke was really good, you know they're not as good right now. When Duke was better when Coach K like 10 years ago, they would always choke. It seemed a lot of the time. It's hard to pick them.
Oh, I got a good one. Bama, Arkansas, Connecticut, and Houston as the Final Four.
UConn's really good, but again, they've kind of had some slip ups as well. But I think they have a shot. And Arkansas, they got to get healthy. I mean, they've already lost Trayvon Brazile for the year with an ACL. That hurts. And Nick Smith, their star freshman's been in and out of the lineup. So if they don't get healthy, Arkansas has absolutely no shot. They have to get healthy, and they're not getting Trayvon Brazile back. So that's a tough loss. But if everyone else is healthy, I think they have a shot.
But how good it looks for the Big 12 that Houston's looking really good. Like, good Lord.
Currently, it doesn't matter.
To
But
Clint Moses' point, Big Ten basketball hasn't won a title over 20 years. Don't watch them. The problem with Big Ten basketball, because I unfortunately do watch Big Ten basketball. The problem with Big Ten basketball is that the refereeing is not great in the league. I mean, it's not good everywhere, but in the Big Ten especially, it is bad. And
It's if you think of Pac-12 refs, they're big in football. They're Big Ten refs in basketball.
And the problem is that when the refs are so inconsistent in Big Ten play, and I'm not gonna call out certain teams that get benefit or whatever, or some teams that don't, but it's like certain teams.
Wisconsin.
Okay, Will sang it for me here. I wasn't going to, but Will gets it obviously. And then they make the tournament, and what happens to the Badgers? They get blown out because they're like, oh, they won the Big Ten, or they finished second in the Big Ten. They're a great team, but then they make the tournament and then they lose. That's what happens every year, and that's why the Big Ten will never win anything, because the refs are bad, and the teams are not constructed to win a title. I mean, you look at where the talent's going. It's going to the Big 12. It's going to the SEC. It's going to the ACC. Why? Because none of the players want to play in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And I don't blame him, because I wouldn't want to play in it either. It's just a mean league, man. You get beat up.
I mean, I literally only watch Ohio State. I'm not really a Ohio State basketball fan per se. I don't really care for Big Ten basketball in Ohio State. My focus in basketball is like, I love VCs. And it's not just because of you. I love Gonzaga. I wish Gonzaga would have beat Baylor. That was irritating.
Well, the undefeated streak would have been over, though, man. The undefeated streak would have been over.
Yeah, but that's like the thing about
For
Gonzaga.
Indiana. I
Is
mean, come on.
they're
Gonzaga would have been undefeated.
They're the best regular season team,
Oh, you
but
mean for
then in
UCLA.
the postseason they come up short, and that's just such a shame about Gonzaga.
I know.
Wasn't that
Evan.
the 07 team? Wasn't that the
Yeah.
07 team? Yeah.
And if it wasn't Florida in the title game, we would have won.
Didn't Florida win it in 07?
Yeah, over us. After
Yeah, because
beating
they won 2 titles in a row. Yeah, they're repeats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember they had Ohio State had this guy Kraft that was really good. I remember
Aaron
him.
Kraft. He always his face got really red. He was
Yeah.
so good, man. He was so
I
good.
love Aaron Kraft, man.
I didn't like when he played Indiana, obviously, but besides that, I rooted for him hard, man. He was so good. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't Ohio State basketball's not bad, man.
No. Florida didn't play in the back years. They played on, well, what you're talking about, because it was funny because Florida beat Ohio State for the BCS National Championship in January. Then you turn around, Florida beats the living crap out of Ohio State in basketball in the national championship. In the same
Look at this comment from Troy. I only paid attention to the tourney when Loyola was in because I love the underdog stuff. Other than that, I gave up on basketball when Jordan retired from the Bulls. That was a long time ago.
For VCU, Nova, George Mason, Loyola, Gonzaga.
St. Peter's almost did it.
Well,
I do. Yeah.
Florida Gulf Coast went to the Sweet 16 in 2013 with Andy Enfield.
Yeah, and then they
Man, like that was such a good Georgetown team. I'm like, are they finally going to get back to the Final Four for the first time since 2008? Lost to Florida Gulf Coast. Never been the program's never recovered from that.
Is it the same way with Kentucky here? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see John Calipari go to ESPN pretty soon.
So
Well,
I
he's
want.
been reported for the Texas job. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see.
I want to go more in depth in this when it comes to tourney time.
Mm-hmm.
But offhand, what is your guys' I'm not going to say favorite. I'm going to say most memorable tourney moment.
Bradford Burgess's shot to beat Florida State to send VCU to the Elite Eight.
Conference tournament or just March Madness?
March Madness.
Oh, you got me there. There's a lot
tons,
of them.
man. There's tons.
Well,
I mean, there's so many
I
moments.
say memorable and not use the term favorite because mine kind of falls into the memorable for what it ended up turning into. But that Louisville kid who went down the corner, shot the three against Duke to win the game, and eventually the whole thing, and he broke his leg.
Oh,
You want memorable? That's pretty memorable.
yeah.
Hey, to Clint's point,
Yeah, don't put that image on my
Carolina losing Natty on a half court.
That was memorable.
That was
Yeah.
insane. I watched that game, and I mean, I was again, from Carolina. I was rooting for Carolina, but I mean, at the end of the day, man, I was so happy for.
Oh,
Jay Wright
Sister
was one of my favorite
Jean
coaches
on the Final Four run with Loyola Chicago. That's always going to be memorable to me, and that's my favorite turning moment of all time. That Loyola Chicago Final Four team.
Maybe you guys are too young to remember this, but I guess I was too technically. I just watched this stuff religiously when I'm a year.
That's the key, man. I don't have the time, man.
2005, when Michigan State upset Kentucky at the Texas basketball arena where Texas played. And it was, I think Kentucky took the last shot. It would have counted as a three, but the dude's foot was on the line that much. So they said it was a 2. And Kentucky lost by like 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, Christian Leitner's shot at the buzzer against Kentucky 92 is one of the best moments in the tourney. I didn't like Duke. That was amazing. I mean, I know no one really cares. And again, they're horrible for the last 20 years, but Indiana beat Duke in the 0-2 Final Four. I mean, that was
well for you.
That was kind of crazy.
Speaking of Indiana, I think for you it would be because I don't think you guys won that game actually. I was gonna say the 0-2 title against Maryland. I would have thought for you.
Yeah, the Juan Dixon Maryland team.
Oh, 2018 was Sister Jean at Loyola Chicago. That is memorable, and that's my favorite turning moment of all time.
I mean, that's probably my favorite tournament ever.
Clint says anytime Duke loses, and then he said Kemba Walker's crazy turning around.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say also that 2011 party at Kemba, baby.
I was so young, man, and I'm like watching this Kemba Walker guy. I'm like, man, he's beating everybody. I was so young. It's like 7, man.
Yeah, that's when I was watching Georgetown's Final Four run. When they beat UNC, I was so happy.
This is what I'm talking about. You want these teams back, man. Georgetown, Indiana. I mean, come on. You get back to being Final Four good. Syracuse. It's insane.
As random as it is, it would be nice to see someone like Illinois make another Final Four championship.
And they had their time with Kofi Coburn, and they couldn't get it done.
I mean, here's the thing. In 04 to 05, if freaking Devin Williams and crew wouldn't have ran into North Kakalaki and Mayo, I think was his name, the center, they would have won the title. And that's the irritating part. Like, okay, for example, Michigan State would have won in 09 if the opponent wasn't Tyler Yeah, nice name, dude. Tyler Hansbrough and
I
North
just remember
Carolina.
him with the mask on his face, like when I was a really little kid, just watching
That dude
him
took so many
with
charges.
taking the shot against Duke. Like I don't know if it was like I think it was like an elbow, and his like nose with blood was just running out. That was like one of my first college basketball memories. Man. It
Same
was
here. I was
disgusting.
so young, and I'm like hiding my eyes, like what's happening. I will say though, Indiana again. The 2013 year was their best year they've had since 02. When Tom Crean couldn't coach against the zone to save his life, but if Indiana didn't play Syracuse in the 2013 Sweet 16, they could have won it all. But he couldn't coach against the zone.
All right, gentlemen. That was a nice preview for the changing team. I think
Our
it's
bold
time.
prediction for 2023.
Go ahead, Will.
Prediction for who wins the NCAA tournament?
For 2023 football season.
2023 season. Wait, who I think? Wait, football or basketball? Sorry, I keep getting confused.
It's a bold prediction for next football season.
Texas A&M, 10 wins.
Jeffrey?
Go ahead, Jackson. I'm still thinking.
Yeah, one question. Is there a limit?
No.
Okay, so Miami turns it around. I think for right now, Miami turns it around, wins the Coastal 2023. But here's a bigger one. Texas San Antonio wins the AAC in their first year and then gets to New Year's Six Bowl, and they might win their NY Six Bowl.
I mean, again, I don't know if these are bold predictions. Again, I mean, it's just tough. Bold prediction number one: Indiana can make a bowl game. That's not, because whatever. It's just, I mean, Tom Allen's doing decent in the portal. They improved, went 4-8. They can make a bowl game, maybe. Washington can win the Pac-12. I don't know if that's a bold prediction or not. I'm not banking on it, but it's possible with Penix. They can win the Pac-12. I don't know if there's any more. I mean, a really bold one would be TCU to make the playoff again, but that's not more likely going to happen. But you never know. You guys got any more bold predictions? I mean, I'll know the first two I was commit more than the last one. I was just kind of throwing that last one out there. I'm not saying TCU's gonna make it back, but those first two, possible.
Well, I know this. I'll know more when it gets to the summer. That's it. I know what I'm going to do today.
All right. So, my bold predictions are Colorado runs through the Pac-12 and finishes second in the conference.
They're going 4-8.
Oh, man.
Louisville finishes inside the top 20. And Notre Dame goes 0-12. Have a good night, guys.